But you see the house?
Yeah.
Nothing. There was absolutely nothing. That if it doesn't have a use, it's not in the house.
Keeps it simple.
They had running water?
One only cold water.
Wow. No bathroom.
Trying to shade. They had one bathroom upstairs. This is the house and the barn. That's about the size of the LaChance house.
Wow.
And the land, the way it was narrow like this, but it just went up. Everyone had like 150 acres that just went, but it was just narrow tracks all the way up through.
Wow.
But him and I, we sat on the back porch one night, and that's what I'll never forget, is him telling me stories when him and his bride, when he brought his bride home to that house 73 years ago.
Wow.
And he'd say, ah oui, moi et ma femme, on descendait à la ville. Puis, on descendait avec le cheval. Puis, après du coup, ça, ouais, hein, des sauvages, ils sautaient dans le chemin. Puis, aussi vite qu'ils sautaient dans le chemin, ils sautaient back dans les bois. Puis, tu n'étais pas capable de voir où le foin était plié par les sauvages. Nous autres, c'était des sauvages partout ici. And then he'd say, j'avais été à la chasse avec une sauvage. Il était une maudite grosse sauvage. Cheveux longs jusqu'à ici. C'était l'hiver. Puis on avait été perdu dans la neige. On avait un castor mort avec nous autres. Lui, il traînait ça de son cou. Les sauvages mangent n'importe quelque chose. Il dit, on a trouvé une cabane qui était vide. On a passé la nuit là. Et cuit la queue de la castor. S'il l'a mangé aussi. Elle était bonne. That was nice to hear all the stories about.
There probably wasn't a doctor within 100 miles.
They lived off the land.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they use for doctors? The savages.
Really?
And you know, in the French language, still to this day, it is a savage.
Doctor is?
No, Indians are savages.
Oh, really?
When I was out west, my squad boss spoke French. And there was a crew up ahead of us. They were all Indians, you know, Native Americans. And the squad boss asked me in French, did you see the squad? And I said to him, I says, c'est un des sauvages. And then I say, j'espère ils don't put me through. He says, that's not the way you call them. They're Native Americans. I said, well, in French, it's still un sauvage. And you know what they call still a black person in French?
Nig.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had that very discussion with 2 8-year-olds, and their folks are from El Salvador. And he said, Mom, he heard her talking about Negro, you know, and he says, you can't say that. They're African Americans. I said, but honey, in your country, that's the word for it. That's the word you have to use. Just like, you know, that's what it's called.
And take the Acadian French. Well, see, La Chance was Acadian, and the Bleuat was French.
So by Acadian, you mean they came out of that part of Maine and then got shifted down to Louisiana?
Well, when I talk Acadian, well, like Prince Edward Island used to be called Royal Island.
Right.
That was all the Acadians up through New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. They came down through there.
Right.
From the swamplands of France. Was it Normandy they came from?
Ah.
And
they got kicked out and they ended up in Louisiana.
Yeah. And or they came to Quebec, since Quebec was still French.
Yeah.
That guy at that church in Lambton, when he talks about La Chances, he'd say, nous autres appelons les La Chance because, you know, they come from this area called the Beauce. You've heard that term.
Oh,
that's in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And he'd say, on les appelait toujours les La Chance, les genoux noirs.
The new what?
Their knees were black.
Because they were loggers.
Yeah.
And they're always knee deep. Because it's a swamp. It's a, you know, it's a swampy desolate area. You must remember this.
No.
That was their house in Lambton.
Well, that's the house I remember. I should remember it, but it doesn't look familiar. But
The thing that I always remember was those green things on the wall.
really,
And my grandfather always grew those dinner plate dahlias.
Oh.
And in the front, between the porch and the sidewalk, they were huge, and they were just like this. And he was so proud of his dahlias. And I had still some of his dahlias. Gaston Isabelle, you know, your uncle, he had still roots from that. And I don't know, because their house burnt. I don't know if he still has some, but they were passed on for quite a while.
wow.
Wow.
Amazing.
But you wouldn't recognize that house anymore.
Oh, I'm sure I wouldn't.
The guy that, you know what's sad is when we went with your mom up there.
Yeah.
Même dans le sac, faut l'oublier, vous donnez ça, c'est
This is for Cynthia.
Oh, okay.
When we went up there with your mom, my cousin Mimi, your cousin Mimi, from Lambton, that's the one that got the book, 3-inch thick book on the history of Lambton and the Blue Rat.
Cousin Mimi, and she lives in
Lambton.
Lambton.
She sent us on the wrong
Hmm.
She took us to what she thought was their ancestral house, and later we found out that it wasn't.
Oh,
But that would be something for you to go and see.
yeah.
But it's hard to get into Canada and get out anymore, isn't it?
No, well,
You don't have
2009
passport?
you're supposed to have a passport, but you must have a passport.
I don't.
No, you know what?
You need to get it done, I guess.
The last time he was in Canada was the day of 9/11, and he was on his way up to see Dad, and he went up through Canada, as we often did, and they closed the border. He just barely got out before the border was closed.
Oh.
And he didn't have any papers, so gosh, I might have had to go back up to Canada to find my man.
You remember him?
Oh yeah, Joel. How do you spell his name?
Well, is it Zoet or it was Piai Piai? Like Piai.
Fiai Piai?
Brother Pierre.
Brother Pierre.
Uh-huh.
And he used to always irritate your Aunt Margaret because
Oh, yeah.
he used to call her my goat.
Yeah, Mongo. I forgot that. Yeah.
She didn't like that.
No, she didn't like that at all.
And his other name was Lowell?
Zoel.
Zoelle. Zoelle?
I don't know.
Okay, question mark.
This
We
one
weren't
fell
sure
out. Where did
either.
it come from? Back here, maybe? These are all loose back here.
We could probably look it up in that big fat book, though, couldn't we?
There's your mom at my father and mother's anniversary.
Yeah, Mom got a... Isn't that the picture we made a copy of that Mom had in her stuff? I think it is. We made a copy of that. I recognize that picture.
Do you?
Yes,
Oh,
yes. And she has one sitting with this brother,
Uh-huh.
just the two of them sitting visiting.
Oh, okay.
Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you have the picture of the whole family?
Of her
I
family?
couldn't find
Is
it.
it a big, is it an
An 8 by
8 by 10 and it's when they're fairly young? Yes, we do. And we made
Well,
copies
no,
of it.
they were
Do-
married. Except for Rose and
This
Pianjai.
goes back,
And Zoel, Rose has this brown dress with this orangey scarf-like thing on her, and she has that. You ever notice she could be mean, but she always has that smile there, that smirk there of fun.
yeah.
But you don't have that picture there.
I don't think so.
I don't think so
Aunt,
either.
Aunt Bertha, she's in a purple dress with purple nylons.
No.
But the one we have is black and white, or
this one's
sepia,
This one's color.
and it's about how old were they, honey, would you say?
Oh, man. they
What
were
about the adopted
early 20s,
ones?
Early 20s.
Early 20s.
Oh,
Have
no,
you
much
seen that
later.
one?
No.
We need to scan it and send that to you.
I would have liked to